The surveillance chamber aboard the Kelvari dreadnought, Eternal Dominion, hummed with quiet certainty as Commander R'Lin observed the human vessel drift into visual range. Small, primitive, utterly predictable. The alien fleet had tracked this lone ship for 3 standard cycles, analyzing every movement, every energy signature, every comm burst. The humans called it the Tess Wayward, a scout-class vessel, 17 crew members, minimal armament visible on external scans. "They still haven't detected us," her tactical officer, Vexara, reported, mandibles clicking with amusement. "Their sensor arrays are generations behind our stealth plating." R'Lin's 4 eyes tracked the human ship's trajectory across the holographic display. Humanity had been expanding into contested space for only 2 decades. Children playing in a galaxy that had been shaped by elder civilizations for millennia. The Kelvari Empire had been patient with them, generous even, allowing their fumbling colony ships to establish footholds on worthless outer rim worlds. But this incursion into the Thyrelis sector crossed a line that could not be ignored. "Disable their engines," R'Lin commanded. "We'll board them, confiscate their navigational data, and send them limping back to their nearest outpost. A lesson in humility." The weapons officer initiated the firing sequence. Precision ion bursts lanced across the void, calculated to cripple but not destroy. The Kelvari didn't murder primitives, they educated them. The human ship's engines flared and died as predicted. The vessel went dark, tumbling gently in the stellar drift. Vexara's mandibles spread in satisfaction. "Clean hit. Their main reactor is cycling down. They're helpless." R'Lin watched the disabled ship for a long moment, considering something her intelligence briefings had mentioned in passing. Human vessels often carried less than 30% of their actual technological capacity in active configuration. The report had seemed absurd at the time. Why would any species deliberately handicap themselves? She dismissed the thought. Probably another example of primitive inefficiency. But as her boarding craft launched toward the silent human vessel, one question lingered in her mind like an itch she couldn't quite reach. What exactly were the humans not showing her? The boarding operation proceeded with textbook efficiency. Kelvari shock troops breached the Wayward's airlocks within minutes, their combat armor rendering them immune to the ship's automated defenses. Not that there were many. The human vessel's interior matched its exterior in disappointing mediocrity. Narrow corridors, exposed conduit, lighting that flickered at irregular intervals as backup power struggled to compensate for the disabled reactor. R'Lin watched through her soldiers' helmet feeds as they swept through the ship. The 17 human crew members offered no resistance. They simply stood in their stations, hands visible, expressions unreadable. Their commanding officer, a male who identified himself as Captain Grant, waited in the cramped bridge with his hands clasped behind his back. "Commander R'Lin of the Kelvari Empire," her voice transmitted through the boarding team's communication relay. "You have violated restricted space. Your vessel is now property of the Empire. You and your crew will be detained and questioned." Captain Grant's face remained neutral on the visual feed. He was young for a human commander, R'Lin's database informed her. Barely 40 standard years. Humans were such short-lived creatures. This one would likely be dead before R'Lin reached her middle age. "Understood," Grant said simply. No protest, no negotiation, no desperate appeals to mercy or diplomatic immunity. Something about his calm acceptance troubled her. "Secure the prisoners in their own cargo bay," R'Lin ordered. "Begin downloading their computer core. I want complete access to their navigational logs and communication records." The operation continued smoothly. Too smoothly, perhaps. The humans moved where directed without complaint. They answered basic questions with single-word responses. They didn't resist when Kelvari technicians began interfacing with their ship's systems. Vexara shifted uncomfortably at her station. Commander, the ease of this capture is unusual. Human vessels in previous encounters have shown more defensive aggression. They're outmatched, and they know it, R'lyn replied. Even primitives can recognize when resistance is futile. But the itch persisted. Her chief intelligence analyst, Torvin, pulled up comparative data on his holographic display. Commander, I'm seeing anomalies in the human vessel's power distribution. Even with their main reactor disabled, there are isolated energy signatures throughout the ship that don't correspond to backup systems. Explain. I can't, Torvin admitted, his translator rendering his confusion perfectly. The signatures are there, but they're not connected to any active system I can identify. It's like the ship has entire sections that simply aren't turned on. R'lyn remembered the intelligence brief again. Less than 30% active capacity. Show me their weapon systems, she commanded. The holographic schematic of the Wayward materialized between them, rotating slowly. The ship's offensive capabilities glowed in amber highlights. 2 forward-mounted plasma cannons, a single missile battery, point defense lasers designed to intercept debris and small projectiles. Exactly what the long-range scans had detected. But now, with her technicians physically interfacing with the human computer core, something else emerged. Shadow systems. Hardpoints without active weapons, power conduits that led to empty spaces, mounting brackets designed for equipment that simply wasn't installed. They're flying with half an armory, Vexara observed. Why would they deliberately underarm themselves? The question hung in the air unanswered. In the cargo bay of the Wayward, Captain Grant stood among his crew, hands still clasped behind his back, watching the Kelvari guards with eyes that revealed nothing. One of the guards noticed his attention and raised its weapon slightly, a gesture of warning. Grant smiled faintly. The inciting moment arrived without fanfare, which somehow made it worse. R'lyn was reviewing the downloaded navigational data when her communications officer interrupted with a priority alert. Commander, we're detecting a vessel emerging from slip space. Large signature, human configuration. The main display showed the new arrival materializing at the system's edge. It was massive, easily 3 times the displacement of the Eternal Dominion. The Kelvari sensors struggled to analyze it, returning conflicting data about its composition and capability. They've come for their scout ship, Vexara said. Should we destroy it before it can interfere? R'lyn considered the tactical situation. 1 Kelvari dreadnought against an unknown human vessel. The Empire's warships had never lost an engagement against human forces. Their technology was simply superior in every measurable category. Hail them, she decided. Let's see if they're intelligent enough to negotiate. The communication channel opened. A human female appeared on screen, older than Captain Grant, with silver-gray hair and medals adorning her uniform. This is Admiral Amber Chen of the United Earth Forces ship Prometheus. You are currently in possession of one of our vessels and its crew. You have exactly 3 minutes to release them unharmed. No diplomatic pleasantries, no negotiation framework. Just a flat ultimatum delivered with absolute certainty. R'lyn felt her dorsal spines stiffen in irritation. I am Commander R'lyn of the Kelvari Empire. Your scout vessel violated restricted space. They are now prisoners under Imperial law. You are outmatched and outgunned. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The channel closed. Vexara pulled up tactical analysis of the human ship. Commander, their vessel is reading minimal active weapons, a few missile ports, some beam emplacements, nothing that poses a threat to our armor. R'lyn studied the scan data. The human ship was certainly large, but size meant nothing without firepower. And yet the Admiral had spoken with such certainty, such complete confidence. What was she not seeing? "Begin charging main batteries," R'Lin ordered. "Target their primary systems. If they won't withdraw, we'll cripple them and take their admiral as well." Aboard the Prometheus, Admiral Chen stood on a bridge that could have held 3 of the Wayward's entire crew complement. Around her, officers worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. No panic, no rushed movement, just the quiet competence of professionals executing a familiar protocol. "Status?" Chen asked. Her tactical officer, a man named Caleb with cybernetic implants replacing his left eye and ear, didn't look up from his console. "Kelvari Dreadnought is charging weapons. 87 seconds until they achieve firing solution. The Wayward is intact. All crew members accounted for in the cargo bay." "Their captain?" "Waiting." Chen nodded slowly. Captain Grant had done exactly what he was supposed to do. Get captured. Let them feel superior. Buy time for the response fleet to arrive. "Implement authorization Crimson Sky," she said quietly. The words traveled through the bridge like a physical wave. Officers straightened at their stations. New displays came online. Throughout the massive ship, systems that had been dormant suddenly woke up. The Prometheus had been operating at 22% capacity. It was time to show them what 100% looked like. The transformation of the Prometheus registered on Kelvari's sensors as a cascading series of impossible readings. Energy signatures spiked across every spectrum. Weapon ports opened along the hull, where moments before there had been smooth armor plating. Entire sections of the ship reconfigured, revealing firepower that made the earlier scans look like crude jokes. "Commander!" Torvin's voice cracked with alarm. "Their reactor output just increased by 400%. They're bringing 73 separate weapon systems online. Railgun batteries, plasma lances, fusion missiles, graviton projectors, and something our computers can't even classify." R'Lin stared at the tactical display as it updated in real time. This wasn't possible. Their intelligence on human military capability was comprehensive, verified by dozens of encounters. Humans didn't have this level of technology. They couldn't. And yet the evidence screamed from every sensor. "How?" Vexara whispered. "How did they hide this from us?" Admiral Chen's face reappeared on the communication channel, her expression still perfectly neutral. "You have 60 seconds remaining. I won't repeat my offer." R'Lin forced her breathing to steady. Even with this unexpected firepower, the Prometheus was still just one ship. The Eternal Dominion was a Kelvari dreadnought, survivor of 100 battles, equipped with the finest technology the Empire could produce. "All weapons fire at will," she commanded. The Eternal Dominion's main batteries discharged in a coordinated salvo designed to overwhelm any defensive system. Ion beams capable of melting through 3 meters of composite armor. Plasma torpedoes that burned at temperatures exceeding stellar cores. Missiles with adaptive AI targeting that could track and eliminate countermeasures. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Prometheus didn't dodge, didn't maneuver. It simply activated another system that Kelvari science said couldn't exist. The defensive field that materialized around the human ship caught every weapon, every projectile, every beam of concentrated death, and held it suspended in a sphere of distorted space-time. The energy swirled and compressed, held at bay by technology that made graviton manipulation look primitive. Then the field reversed polarity and sent everything back. The Eternal Dominion took its own full salvo across the bow. Armor that had never been breached shattered like glass. Entire decks decompressed. The ship lurched violently, throwing R'Lin against her command throne's restraints. Emergency systems screamed across every channel. Damage reports flooded in faster than her crew could process them. 317 Kelvari dead in the first 30 seconds. Hull integrity at 40% and falling. "Impossible," R'Lin heard herself say. This is impossible." Admiral Chen's voice came through with crystalline clarity despite the chaos. "You killed 17 of our people in a border skirmish 6 months ago. You thought we wouldn't respond. You thought we were weak." Relin's mind raced back through intelligence reports. 6 months ago, a minor engagement. A human colony ship that had strayed too close to an Imperial mining operation. The Kelvari patrol had destroyed it as a matter of routine enforcement. 17 casualties confirmed. 17 dead humans. "You started a war over 17 lives?" Relin asked, genuine incomprehension in her voice. In the Empire, 17 deaths wouldn't even merit an official investigation. "No," Chen replied. "We're ending one before it begins. You're going to witness what happens when humans stop being polite." The Prometheus opened fire. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. The human ship didn't use overwhelming force. It used precise surgical strikes that carved through the Eternal Dominion's defenses like they weren't there. Each weapon system activated in sequence, showing Relin and her crew exactly what humanity was capable of when they stopped pretending to be weaker than they were. Railguns fired slugs at relativistic speeds that punched through armor designed to withstand orbital bombardment. Plasma lances cut targeting arrays from the hull with such precision that adjacent systems remained untouched. Graviton weapons created localized fields that crushed weapons emplacements into compressed spheres of useless metal. And through it all, the Prometheus maintained perfect defensive coverage, its impossible field turning every Kelvari counterstrike into nothing more than wasted ammunition. "They're not trying to destroy us," Torvin said, his voice hollow with understanding. "They're showing us every way they could." He was right. Relin could see it now. The human ship could have vaporized them in the first exchange. Instead, it was systematically disabling every system, one by one, in a catalog of technological superiority. "Multiple additional contacts," her sensor officer reported numbly. 7 more human vessels emerging from slipspace, cruiser and destroyer class, all showing similar energy signatures to the Prometheus. Of course, there were more. This wasn't a rescue operation. It was a message. "Commander," Vexara said quietly, "they're demanding our surrender." Relin looked at her shattered ship, at her crew, wounded and terrified, at the tactical display showing 8 human vessels that could each destroy her dreadnought without breaking formation. She had one question left. "Why?" she transmitted to Admiral Chen. "Why hide this capability? Why let us think you were weaker than us?" Admiral Chen's response came after a long pause. "Because we learned something a long time ago, Commander. The moment you deploy 100% of your military technology, you've committed to total annihilation of your enemy, of any hope for peace, of any possibility for coexistence. So we show you 20%, 30% on a bad day. We give you room to back down, to negotiate, to choose diplomacy over destruction." She leaned forward slightly, and for the first time, Relin saw something in her eyes that made her blood freeze. "But you killed 17 of our people. You made it clear that you see us as primitives to be corrected. So we're showing you what happens when we stop being gentle, when we stop giving you the chance to walk away." On the wayward, Captain Grant received the signal through his neural implant. Authorization received. Restrictions lifted. The Kelvari guards noticed nothing as the human crew's postures subtly changed, as their expressions shifted from passive compliance to something harder, more focused. Grant's hands, still clasped behind his back, activated the combat systems that every member of his crew carried. Not weapons, not yet. Just the first layer of capability that humanity installed in every soldier, every officer, every crew member who ventured beyond Earth's protective sphere. Neural combat interfaces, reflex enhancement, threat assessment algorithms that ran on biological substrates faster than most computers. He didn't need them. Not yet. But they were active now, ready, waiting. The guards would never know how close they came to dying in that cargo bay. The surrender of the Eternal Dominion came within minutes. Commander R'Lin had no choice, and she knew it. Her ship was crippled. Her fleet was 3 star systems away. The humans had 7 fully operational warships surrounding her, each carrying enough firepower to glass a planet. "We submit to your terms," she transmitted, the words tasting like poison. Admiral Chen didn't gloat, didn't make demands for unconditional surrender or humiliating concessions. She simply outlined the terms in clear, precise language. The Wayward and its crew would be released immediately. The Kael'vari Empire would withdraw from the Thyrellus sector and recognize it as human space. Reparations would be paid for the 17 lives lost 6 months ago, and there would be peace. "You could destroy us," R'Lin said. "Why don't you?" "Because we don't want to," Chen replied simply. "We never wanted to. We came to this galaxy looking for neighbors, not subjects. But we learned to hide our strength because species like yours can't resist testing boundaries, can't resist pushing until you find out where the real limits are." She gestured at the crippled dreadnought. "Now you know. You've seen 30% of what we can do, maybe 40, and that's enough to destroy your entire fleet without losing a single ship." R'Lin felt something fundamental shift in her understanding of the universe. What does 100% look like? Admiral Chen's expression didn't change, but something cold passed through her eyes. "You don't want to find out. No one does. Because when humanity deploys 100% of its military technology, we're not trying to win a battle or a war. We're trying to make absolutely certain that our enemy can never, ever threaten us again." The words hung in the vacuum between ships. "That's why we hide it," Chen continued. "That's why we show you just enough to make you think twice, but not enough to terrify you into desperation. Because a desperate enemy does stupid things, suicidal things, and then we have to respond with the weapons we really don't want to use." On her command display, Chen pulled up a file and transmitted it to the Kael'vari ship. R'Lin opened it with trembling hands. It was a catalog of human weapons systems, not the ones currently deployed, the ones still in research, still in development, still in theoretical stages that made the Prometheus's arsenal look like ancient history. Planetary-scale graviton disruptors, quantum entanglement bombs that could destroy a target across any distance, stellar manipulation technology that could turn a sun into a weapon, and at the bottom of the list, a single line marked with the highest security classification. Project Omega, complete timeline severance. R'Lin didn't understand what that meant, but the fact that humans had classified it above everything else, that they had given it such a final-sounding name, told her everything she needed to know. "Why show me this?" she asked. "So you can go back to your empire and tell them the truth," Chen said. "Tell them that humans don't fight at full capacity because we don't want to live in a galaxy of ashes. Tell them we prefer neighbors to graves, but also tell them that we have the graves ready, just in case." She leaned back in her command chair. "And tell them that if they ever want to test our limits again, if they ever want to see what 100% actually means, they should remember this day. Remember how easily we dismantled your most powerful warship, and understand that this was us being gentle." The communication channel closed. R'Lin sat in her damaged command throne, surrounded by the wreckage of her pride and her ship, and tried to process what she had learned. The galaxy had been shaped by elder races for millennia. The Kelvari Empire was ancient, powerful, secure in its dominance. But humanity was something different. They were young, yes, short-lived, yes, but they had built their technology with a philosophy that no elder race had ever considered. They had built it to never need to use it fully. They had made themselves strong enough to terrify any enemy, but disciplined enough to only show fractions of that strength, to give their opponents room to back down, room to negotiate, room to choose peace, until someone killed 17 of them. Then the room disappeared, and the galaxy saw what had always been waiting beneath the surface. Weeks later, after the Wayward had been repaired and its crew returned to duty, Captain Grant filed his after-action report. It was brief, factual, and understated in the way of all human military documentation. Mission successful. Captured by Kelvari forces as planned. Response fleet arrived on schedule. Diplomatic objectives achieved. 0 casualties. Admiral Chen read it and added a single note to her personal log. We showed them 40%, maybe 45%. They think they've seen our capabilities. They have no idea. And if we're very, very lucky, they'll never need to find out what we keep in reserve. The weapons we built not to fight wars, but to end them so completely that no one would ever dare start another one. We call it deterrence. We call it mutually assured destruction. We call it the peace of the gun behind the door. She paused, stylus hovering over the screen. We call it being human. We build the most terrible weapons imaginable, and then we do everything in our power to never use them. Because the moment we do, the moment we commit to 100%, we become the very thing we built those weapons to defend against. She closed the log file and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Commander Ralin was delivering her report to the Kelvari Empire, telling them about human strength, human restraint, human capacity for both mercy and annihilation. And humanity would continue as it always had, showing just enough strength to discourage aggression, hiding just enough capability to keep hope for peace alive. Because the greatest weapon wasn't the one you used, it was the one you never had to fire.